I welcome you to another section of this course. This is the second module 2. And in our previous module, we have been able to introduce ourselves to to what social work is. That is the introduction to social work. That's module 1. And I believe we've been able to justify that to some appreciable extent. And now we'll be looking at we'll be moving on to module 2. And this implies that this is the second video. Don't forget, I have mentioned earlier that we'll be having 10 different videos like this. So this is the second video, and under this we have module 2. The topic we have the topic to be social work and historical developments. That will be the topic for module 2. So where we have the module contents to be 1, to be the historical developments of social work in UK and USA. Then we also be looking at the emergence of functions in UK and USA as well. Then we'll be moving on to the historical developments of social work in Nigeria. That's another subtopics under that. Then we'll move on to the scope of social work in Nigeria. Also look at the major fields and areas of practice. Then we'll also be looking at the practice setting, then professional bodies and regulations in Nigeria. So that will be the content for this module. So let's move on to the main context of the module of the course, where we have the introduction to be that social work education in the United Kingdom it was developed through several phases, where we have on-the-job training. We also have courses organized by social work agencies and high standard programs that is offered by dedicated schools of social work. The origins of formal training trace back to the 1890s, where the Women's University Settlement in Southwark began offering classes. Then it is followed by the establishment of the first school of social science in Liverpool in 1903. So within a few years, such training gained recognition within the university system. However, in the United States, the history of social work education it began in 1898 with a training program that is provided by a New York charity organization society. This initial summer course was repeated over several years and eventually developed into the first full-time school of social work. So let's move on to the main content of this module, which is the historical developments of social work in UK and USA. So now we have modern social work. It emerged in the 19th century, which was as a response to the social challenges that is brought about by industrialization. So although religious traditions throughout history, they have also encouraged individuals and institutions to assist the less fortunate, which is generally done and it's very common. So it was only in modern industrial society that helping others became a recognized profession, that it becomes something that people do as a profession. So accordingly, its 3 primary purposes can be identified as follows. We have 1, to enhance individuals' adaptive coping and developmental capacities. Then we also have to promote the effective and humane operation of systems that provide resources and services. And the third one is that it's linking people to systems that offer resources, services, and opportunities. So now let's move on to the emergence of functions. That's another subtopic under that. So the core essence of social work, it lies in protecting and promoting the interest of the socially disadvantaged and vulnerable groups of people in the society. The key functions of social work include the following, which are 1, we have social work and social control. Social work serves as an instrument of social empowerment for marginalized groups. So when we talk about marginalized groups, these are the less privileged. We can also refer to them as the vulnerable individuals or the vulnerable groups. Then it also bears significant responsibility for influencing or supporting. It also bears significant responsibility for influencing or supporting social and economic institutions to eliminate discrimination and inequality. We also have number 2, to be social work as an integrating force. So that's the functions of social work. Social work performs a vital role in social integration by facilitating the inclusion or re-inclusion of excluded segments of the population into mainstream society. So that is to tell us that without social work, the essential support and assistance needed to ensure the social inclusion of the most vulnerable groups would be unavailable or insufficient. Let's put it that way. So we have number three to be social work and policy failures. So under that, we have a primary objective of social work is to mainly address the shortcomings or failures in other policy domains, which may include such as criminal justice, health, or education. So in addition to these three core functions, social work has been able to also fulfill several broader roles, which include one, pursuing broad societal goals and objectives; two, operating in highly complex and contested environments; and three, we have acting as a key mechanism for social cohesion and unity; four, we have serving a social control or regulatory function; and the last one is responding or to breakdowns or deficiencies in societal norms and systems. So now let's move on to the historical developments of social work in Nigeria. We have more in the um, in the main file of the course, but let's look at it in pre-colonial Nigeria. So that is the Nigerian era before the independence. In the pre-colonial era, social welfare was deeply embedded in traditional community structures, whereby we have different extended families, clans, age grade organizations, and kinship networks. Whereby they will be providing mutual support and care for vulnerable members, such as orphans, the elderly, the sick, and the disabled. So the arrival of the British colonialism and Christian missionaries in the late 19th and early 20th centuries has been able to disrupt this traditional system while also introducing formal welfare initiatives. So rapid urbanization and industrialization has been able to create new challenges. So it was able to create new challenges like juvenile delinquency and poverty, prompting missionary-led charitable services. So post-independence in 1960, that is after the independence, after 1960, social work evolved to address urbanization, population growth, and policy gaps in areas like health, education, and justice. And as of early 2026, social work operates through government ministries has been able to, as that is to tell us that social work has advanced and rapidly go from being a being embedded in traditional community structures to operating in true government ministries, which for example, we have women affairs and social development. We have NGOs, which refers to as non-governmental organizations. We have healthcare and communities, emphasizing social justice and empowerment amid challenges like poverty, trafficking, and conflicts. So let's move on to the scope of social work in Nigeria. Under that, we have the scope of social work in Nigeria. It encompasses a broad range of practices, which is aimed at promoting social justice. Not only that, but also empowering vulnerable populations, addressing psychosocial needs. Sorry about that, and also advocating for systemic change. Social workers in Nigeria, they operate at micro, which could also mean that individual and family. We also have meso, which refers to as group and community. And then lastly, we have macro, which is the policy and societal levels. These are the three levels that social workers in Nigeria they operate. We have the micro, the meso, and the macro. So levels, they focus on remedial, preventive, and developmental interventions. This group is shaped by the country's socio-economic challenges, including poverty, inequality, be it gender inequality and the likes. Then we have every forms of inequality as a whole. Then urbanization, conflict, then and health crisis, while drawing on both indigenous communal values and formal professional frameworks. So we're moving on to the next subtopic, which is the major fields and areas of practice, where we have under that we have child welfare and protection. These are the major fields and areas where social workers practice. We have child welfare and protection, and under child welfare and protection, we have it that a prominent field is a prominent field involving safeguarding vulnerable children from abuse, neglect, exploitation, and trafficking. This is This is welfareism that has to do with underage the children. And the second major field and area of practice, we have medical and health social work. So social workers in hospitals and clinics, under that e.g. we have medical social service departments. They assist patients with psychosocial challenges, discharging planning, counseling for chronic illness, for instance HIV/AIDS. They also give mental health support and linkage to resources. Thirdly, under the major fields and areas of practice, we have mental health and clinical social work. This focuses on psychosocial counseling, therapy for trauma, depression, and addiction, particularly in crisis context like conflict or disaster that might have traumatized the vulnerable individual. So we also look at the fourth one. We have gerontology and aging. So under this, we have it that supporting older adults with resources for health and social inclusion and quality of life. These are the major areas and fields of practice that social work entails. So let's move on to practice setting. Social workers, they are employed across various sectors. We have them in government ministries, in hospitals, clinics, and the likes. So in government ministries, we have, for instance, under that we have Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs, Disaster Management and Social Development. We also have state ministries of Women Affairs and Social Development and the likes. And in hospitals, we also have them in hospitals, clinics, and healthcare facilities. We also have them in NGOs, that is non-governmental organizations. We also have them in community-based organizations and faith-based groups. Those has to do with religions and the likes. So we also have them in schools, university, and educational institutions, where we have guidance and counseling sectors in schools and institutions. We also have correctional facilities, probation services, and rehabilitation centers to aid and help vulnerable individuals. And we also have old people's homes and orphanages homes. So those are the practice settings. Now, moving on to professional bodies and regulation. The Nigerian Association of Social Workers, NASOW, was founded in 1975 and has been able to serve as the umbrella body that advocates for training, standards, and welfare. Also, specialized groups include the Association of Medical Social Workers of Nigeria, the Chartered Institute of Social Work Practitioners of Nigeria, that is established by Act 25 of 2022, which regulates and sets standards. So efforts also continue for full implementation of the Nigerian Council for Social Work to enhance legitimacy. Now, in conclusion, the evolution of social works from its roots in indigenous communal welfare system in Nigeria and its former professionalization in the United Kingdom and United States has been able to underscore the enduring commitment to addressing social injustice, empowering vulnerable populations, and also fostering inclusive society. While Western developments driven by industrialization, charitable organizations like the Charity Organization Society and Settlement House movement, and landmark education milestones such as the establishment of the Council of Social Work Education, has laid the groundwork for structured training and practice emphasizing social controls, integration, and remediation of policy features. So to conclude, just to summarize it all, the historical developments of social work has been traced efficiently in this module from the UK and USA down to Nigeria, where it is later professionalized. Thank you. We'll be moving on to the next module, which is module 3. We'll be also looking at some an important topic under this course. Thank you.